Let's talk about the business of the day as it relates to theater with your hosts, Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. This is The Business of Theater, a working title.
Any way you want. Hello.
No, keep going. Keep going.
I think our generations have great power if we decide to use it, but that the real power isn't necessarily changing how our families see us or how they relate with us as much as it is being authentic. And if at the moment you revert to the child that your parents expect you to be, you're allowed to do that. You're also allowed to be the new person you have become. You're allowed to mix them. I just don't think we have to follow a rule. And families, especially in the theater, our families become who we work with and who we like. And these people who are our blood are invited on terms that are okay with us, whatever that is.
I just want to know on who. I'm just trying to figure out on whose side is it that we revert back to, the us that we were, before we got out into the world and discovered new things and emerged, because there is this mindset that people tend to think that everyone expects something specific of them, so they retreat to that. But as soon as those people are not there, they try on these new hats, they do these new things, and they actually move forward. Mm-hmm. But it's like if you whether it's your best friend from high school or your mother and father, you regress and go back into the past, like those families who have who still have your childhood bedroom intact. Like that's the kind of stuff where I'm just like, I don't understand this.
That is scary.
You're trying so hard to keep. You don't want your kids to grow up like. Who has the Peter Pan syndrome? Is it you or your parents?
Well, and since we're now live, let's mention that this conversation came out of seeing Fat Ham.
Well,
so we related to
yes,
to theater.
And Mitch, right? I know we're trying to figure out the working title, but we cannot name the podcast The Business of Theater. Fat Ham Slays. We just can't do that. Well, whether it slays or not, and it does, Fat Ham slays. Okay? It slays. James Iams did the damn thing. And that's all I have to say about it. So if you are listening and you missed Fat Ham, shame on you. But if you saw it, you know what I mean. James Iams did the damn thing. And that's what I have to say about that.
And there you go. I guess that was a review.
Oh man, I sent him. Everyone else did a graphic and sent like, "I love you, you're great," blah blah blah, and he shared it. But I sent a kind of a personal message. I was just like, "This piece is black as fuck." I thought it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and I said in that finale though, I said you deserve everything. This was amazing. You're amazing, but I'm sure you already know that.
Isn't it wonderful that we get to see this that we know 30 years ago this never would have been allowed on the stage?
Yes, yeah.
That I celebrate that. I'm not as enthralled with, and I think it had, forgive me, public theater, who I adore, but maybe there was something in the production that I had some problems with, but do I appreciate it? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
what I'm so aware, having been, as you know, having been someone. My first show working at the Public was for colored girls. That broke so many barriers back then, and to think of how much time has lapsed and how little we have seen grow in the way of black theater, and how much we are finally able, and it's not just black theater, of course, but
Yes.
how much we are being allowed to share in the human experience now is just wonderful.
I mean,
You know?
those moments between Juicy and Larry were, I mean, that was adolescence. That was all the things you could never say to your first experience, to your early encounters. And I was just like, yes. First of all, my seats were fine. But before the show started, the usher gave us the opportunity to sit in the front row. And we were, because there were 2 seats up front, and they were like, if you want to come down, yes, I want to come down. And I didn't realize that the front row, I mean, we weren't in a front row. We were in like the space that looks like, would have been reserved for handicap or accessibility. But there was a bar right there in front of our seats, but the seats on the ground were folding chairs and lawn chairs and beach chairs, and and it was like they were a part of the cookout, and it was just amazing, like that in itself, because we were peppered throughout the audience. We were peppered throughout the audience. We were well aware of the cookout, before it even started, and it was just I just remember there were so many moments that just stood out, like the energy of the father, and how I thought it was kind of, I couldn't help but, because of where we were, the fact that the father is referred to as Pap, that I kept thinking of Joe Pap.
Yes, well,
because I know that wasn't it. It's just Pappy.
I think you're extending. Yes,
I know, but I was just like, okay. But I loved every moment of it, and the audience was. First of all, I love a production where the audience is allowed to be themselves. It's not a canned laugh or applause. It's not a moment like that. And they also didn't need to give us permission to do that. Well, they kind of did. There was one moment where it's like, before it started, I think the character Juicy said, "Why y'all quiet? Why so quiet? This is, it's uncomfortable. Talk amongst yourselves." And that just sort of lightened the mood in the room. We all came here to hear this, but there was something about that just kind of disarmed the audience and allowed the audience to just sort of take it all in. And I just really enjoyed it. I'd only think about, I was like, which Broadway house should this go into? And or should it go into a Broadway house? I don't know.
You see, I just think it should be in every city in the country.
That's true.
I don't know that it needs to be.
I just mean for more people to see it.
Yeah, well, and it's one of the great things about the Public Theater that 300 seats is not nothing, but as you said, even sitting halfway back, it's a small enough theater that I felt like I was there at the barbecue.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much you put me.
It's a cookout. It's not a barbecue.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The white interpretation, okay? It was joyous, upsetting, and at times, I think I just used the word curious, because there are times I just went, "Where's he going? Where are they going with this?" And I love that, because I walked out of there. Well, I didn't have to walk out of there during the show. I'm just analyzing life I'm learning. I'm enjoying myself while I'm learning, right? And that's what art does.
Yeah.
I hope, you know.
Well,
So,
he has James Imes, Philadelphia-based Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright.
and
James
his
Imes.
new play will be at the Theater Exile later this year. Yes,
Well, one of
or
his
next
new
year.
plays, yes,
One of his
will
new
be at
plays.
Theater Exile, as part of our 2022-23 season. We are very proud of that, and also Philly Mag named uh, Philly Mag named Theater Exile 2022 Best of Philly Best Theater Subscription, whatever that
Excellent,
means. It
excellent.
sells subscriptions, amazing. Yeah, but primarily because James Imes' play is in our season. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah,
But in the playbill, there's a section called "Is and Ain'ts," and it's a note from the playwright. And there's a moment, there's a line that James writes. It says, "This is a play about families stuck in a few cycles that their youngest members discover they can break in real time. I'm sorry, that they can break. In real time, we will see family cycles dissolve to make room for something else to grow." And I was like, I was thinking about, like, yes, it's sort of like the at one point we call them the black sheep, the sort of oddball, the standout in your family. All of those things give you the power to break down these traditional walls, these molds.
it,
And
it,
I just
I
thought that
was
that was a moment that really resonated with me.
interesting transition statement that you're bringing up because
Hmm.
again, the thing that's been weighing on my brain for quite a while is, we're slowly coming out of this pandemic,
Hmm.
and I just keep looking for those people who are grabbing for the new normal and those who are fighting it with every inch of their being. And the battle uh, being that there's still the people who want to keep things the way they were for I don't
Yeah.
know what reason. And you're talking about families and making room for something new. We have such opportunities here. We're not idiots. We know theater has to make money and survive. So that's not the question. Why do they think that every new idea is a threat
Yeah.
to their making money off of theater or being solvent? If anything, we've learned that taking risks is exactly what theater does best. And there are people who we just can't sustain the old procedures of rehearsing theater, of performing theater, of writing theater. And there are people with some great ideas who are standing up for themselves, and the people in authority are not supporting them yet. And I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
really
that
confused.
there's that post you shared with me on LinkedIn from Alan Harrison,
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, on the pandemic. It says, we'll put a link in the notes. It says, "Too big not to fail: nonprofit arts behemoths pre and post pandemic." And it says, "Don't confuse dreams with plans or impact with dominance. Hope is not a strategy." And then it goes into this long list of, if we could just hold on, if we could just get the grant, if we could just convince that angel, if we could just present that show, if we could just turn back the clock, if we could just get people to leave their homes again, if we could just send out enough emails, if we could just manufacture a convincing DEI manifesto for foundation support, if we could just keep our shows front and center in the community no matter what. If we could just have a huge gala again, if we could just be the only ones producing right now, if we can just get the press to know how important we are to the community, if we can just get the press to report how much trouble we are in, if we can just wait for COVID to go away, if we could just do a huge production of escapist entertainment to show how fan friendly we are, and so on and so on and so on. And it says, then maybe we'll be relevant.
Yeah.
And
it's pitiful, isn't it?
Yes, and then at the end it says survival is not a strategy either.
Yeah. And so much of it is based on that. The other thing, and Alan is a great spokesman for whatever a new normal might become, he's really a conscience, I find. But again, from personal experience, so much of the future of nonprofit theater is based on the egos of one person. The person who's the artistic director or the executive director of a theater. They become the sole reason for that theater to exist. That's ridiculous. It's supposed to be the reason you're not paying taxes, the reason why you are not for profit is because your mission is different. And as I said, just survival? What is that about? You want to blow the roof off of our society with culture, right? And somehow, in my less than humble opinion, you do that and the money will follow. It's, the field of dreams, except there are so few places. I mean, we go back to Joe Papp. That happened left and right with Joe Papp. And I don't want to name the names of the current behemoth nonprofits that exist. So few of them are trying to do anything but come up with another hit so they can make some money and convince their subscribers to come back. And then beg for money from foundations. And that's not our purpose. There are, this, that we've been commissioning new writers and working on new works. These people need support because they're talented. They have things to say, and they have the talent to write it. But if they have no place to take their work, then why do we exist?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why do you think that's the whole point. That's the whole reason why there's so many theaters. Like, we're not, sometimes there's a conversation are there too many theaters? Not if there are people who can't work. Like, if there are people who can't find work, there aren't enough theaters. But the thing is,
there are too many theaters who are only, and nothing against this particular show, but who are only concerned with doing Hello Dolly.
True, but there are also a lot of theaters who only have a handful of people that they want to work with. And as much as they want to pretend that they are for the community, about the community, some sort of makeup of the community, then they only work with the same handful of people. And, I don't know. I that doesn't mean we shouldn't have repertories or anything. It just means that's why there's so much room, because this handful of people realize that they want to work together. They want to create great work. They want to continue creating great work. But don't be out here telling everybody that you're doing more than that. Then you're just a gang of people getting together to produce theater. But don't pretend that you're open to everybody when you're not. And there's nothing wrong with it either, except if you're trying to make us think otherwise.
There is room. There's a lot more room for a lot more culture of all kinds. the issue, and like I said, there, as you said, there's nothing wrong if you're a repertory company and you're five friends who get together and you want to put on theater. The issue becomes when you start saying, this is now about money, because everything costs money, and we know that. But there are ways, as we have been exploring, certainly with my company, when we're commissioning writers, there are ways to do things for very little money that still move the bar forward. And you need to start there. The problem is when you now become an institution, institutions seem to take on a personality of their own. And because of that, people think they're entitled to money. Institutions need to be born and die. And there's so many of them that are not, they go from we want to get a hit every 5 years, and in between they're doing very little.
Well,
it's not about having a hit either.
Yeah, but this is something I think about too. It's like because I asked that question too. I'm like, okay, if you're spending all your time talking about the show you're bringing to your stage, like we don't know anything about the company, like the company producing it. Like I wonder that about, let's use Fat Ham for an example. Everybody who, made their way to the public to see Fat Ham, how much do they know about the public theater, beyond Shakespeare in the Park? What else was on their stages at that time? And, did you grab any other information other than just coming in to see Fat Ham? And for any other show too. And so there is kind of a balance. Like we do need to know like who
it's called history.
Runs this organization, the history of the organization, but there is a balance. And it's like, in marketing, it's like that 80-20 rule. It's sort of like, you got to tell more about, you need more, there should be more information about the company and how the company reaches out into the community. Once you get their attention, you talk about the show that you're bringing.
And when we talk about, especially when people go begging for money, whether it's for a commercial venture, you're trying to get investors, or whether it's nonprofit, you're trying to get donors, people actually give money to other people, not to institutions. It's when they feel connected to the people who are creating and what their passion is, that they can say, wow, it's not just that you're doing this show that is about, aliens with green hair that may be a lousy show. It's about, there are 5 people in this thing that I care about, and they're trying to create art of some sort. Do I want to contribute to what they are trying to bring to me and be part of it?
Or do I want to support it?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
that's very true. Like I don't care that this e-blast came from marketing at random theater company. It's like if you can't tell, it does help for somebody on your team to actually talk about what this is. Like, and maybe you don't have to work so hard, sanitizing your message, and let someone speak about what it is you're trying to promote. Like if your education director is dynamic and energetic and a presence in a room, then I need to hear from them. I need to hear why they do the work they do. I need to hear it in their voice, because the organization is a makeup of all these voices.
When I was working at Barrington Stage, I'll give Julie Boyd, the artistic director, full credit for this. Every performance, every single performance, she showed up at the beginning, and we're talking about an audience of hundreds. It wasn't just a tiny little room, and she welcomed everyone. And she
Mm.
talked to them about the mission and what the summer or the next year was. She didn't beg for money. It was, I'm the face of this. These are some of the people working on it. This is what's coming up. Want to tell you we love you to come back. This is down home, even if you're getting a professional production, right?
Yeah.
It's still, we're not above you. And a lot of New York is, well, which has always been my argument with Broadway. If you're going to give people the Broadway experience, throw the red carpet on the sidewalk and let them feel like they're going to something special. Instead, it's like, we did you a favor. You're spending $200 a ticket, and we're letting you in. It's like, no, that's not the right attitude for this. But that's what, and nothing against Broadway shows. I adore them, but it's missing. And that's why an opening night is so exciting, because that's when they do it. All of a sudden, there's an excitement. It's not just the show. You're getting family. You're getting sparkles. You're getting the excitement that we feel putting the show on. You're getting to feel it as you come in to see the show, and then hopefully you're also getting a great show, right? It's a combination. We are a community, and we need to let people into it, right? And instead of, and you're right, because I get 20 times a week, I get requests for money from nonprofits, and all I do is say, well, why do I want to give you money?
Yeah.
What have you done for me? And, if you have a good show, I can buy a ticket. That's fine. But why are you asking me for more money than the ticket price? There's got to be a reason, people. Go ahead.
And if it's a book report and an e-blast,
Thank you.
I'm not gonna read that.
Right.
It's like, show us. It's like a show me.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're so hesitant to embrace this technology that sits before us. Like, we keep trying to go back to the well with these old classic tried and true things. It's like, I don't have a newspaper subscription. That's not where you're going to find me. So you got to ask yourself who your audience is, and who do you want to be your audience. And you can't find this stuffy, for lack of a better term, that blue hair audience. If you're trying to reach them, I don't know that they want the diversity that society is calling for.
Well, the thing I'm gonna argue. It's not an argument in what you just said. You're right in that they are not pushing for it. But what I have discovered from working in the theater for decades more than you have, is that as people get older, they are happy to go to things that push them a little further.
Yeah.
So that, I have relatives who are in their 90s who will go to see something that I never thought they'd be interested in. But they're happy it's there. If you tell me we're going to program for them, I would never have sent them to some of these shows.
Sure.
But they're happy to go because they've got brains and they want to be pushed, because that keeps them feeling alive. So we have to not be afraid of them.
But who's sitting here saying, like, what I want to see? The last of the Red Hot Lovers. I've been dying to see that.
Unfortunately, look what we just got with Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick, which made a fortune on Broadway. It is one of the highest profit-making shows. It's an old Neil Simon play that personally is not one of his best. And because they had two stars that older people and younger, I know some younger people who think that they're worth seeing, people went and saw what I consider to be mediocre theater. The show's over, but it was making almost $2 million a week. I mean, what does that tell you? Then are we wrong? Fat Ham's not going to make $2 million a week, but that doesn't mean it's not important.
I don't know. Did they think A Strange Loop was going to make
well, it's not going to make $2 million a week, but Strange Loop will do well.
But I understand that too, because that's commercial theater.
Yes.
So we're talking about what sells, and
but Darnell, here's the trick to this for me. Artistic and commercial should not be opposites. And it doesn't mean that you can't take me way out there on a limb and sometimes.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with being totally entertained with something that's also going to push me. And sometimes just good writing can be commercial. And so that's, again, the trick. And sharing Joe Papp's theory, and fascinating philosophy, Joe said he had a better chance of getting a commercial and artistic hit by producing 100 plays without reading any of the scripts than he would if he read all the scripts and picked out his best 3. He said, because theater is a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
It's the director can ruin something, the director can save something. An actor can ruin something, an actor can save something. A designer can ruin something, a designer can save something. You put the team together. That's the talent of a good producer, whether it's nonprofit or not. You put the team together, and then you trust that they are going to make sense out of whatever the script was that you started with, that hopefully had something worthwhile in it.
Yeah.
But there are many shows that I've seen on Broadway that I adored that the scripts, in my opinion, are awful. But you put the team together, and they turned into something that was worth seeing. And that, I think, is where we need to rethink our nonprofits. There's room for both. You can go way out on a limb with me, and I'll walk out and say, I really didn't like that. But I saw it. And then otherwise, I want a team to say, let's take something that is going to upset me, and let's make it also a commercial hit. There's a way to do it.
And
I think Strange Loop is the closest thing to that. That went way out there, and it's entertaining.
And I also know that there is an exact formula for this, because I blindly subscribed to I had a LinkTix membership. I subscribed to Lincoln Center Theater 3 and just went to every show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just gave myself to it. I don't even know that I knew who was involved in the shows, but I walked away with how did that piece resonate with you? And I really appreciated that, because I was like, I don't need to do any work, just show up. With LinkTix, it was for people under 35, I think, at the time, and it was like they were just, we want to make theater accessible to you, so subscribe and show up. Be a part of the conversation. I feel like every single company just needs to invite. It's not even an ask, it's an invitation to be part of the conversation. It's like, just be part of the conversation. Find some time. You're telling me this show is running for 3 weeks or a month or however long it's running. You don't have time to come in and be part of this conversation, and then go out into the world and talk about how you experience this thing. I mean, we don't need to be involved in the show to see the show. So let's carry that mindset in.
Well,
but you also can't. It's also hard. I'm also talking about nonprofits. It's also hard when your Saturday night ticket is through the roof, but it includes, all these other things. It's like, do you want me to see the show or not? And it's like, and then you're like, well, you can come see the preview. I'm like, yes, but the preview is, you're arguably still working on it, right? So do you want me to see the finished product or not? And you're telling me because you're ready now, you want to charge me more money to come see the show? It's like, were you trying to make this accessible or not? It's like, you're basically inviting us into the room so that, because you are aware that the missing piece is the audience, but you're sort of subsidizing us being there as a preview.
It's but interestingly enough, 30 years ago, previews on Broadway were cheaper than from opening night on. And again, the question was, well, as you said, you can interpret it two ways. I'm going to get to see what basically the show is at a cheaper rate, but the problem with those pricing things, and with with a lot of pricing things, is you feel like a second-class citizen. I don't have the money to buy a $200 ticket. And I can sit in the last row, which I've done many times, or done standing room, and save some money. But now I can't be handicapped. I need accessible, because although Broadway has accessible seating at discounted prices, but it's not cheap. It's still not cheap. I can stand online for over an hour at the TKTS booth to get a half-price ticket because I can't afford $200, which means if I'm a senior citizen, or it's raining out or it's snowing out, I've got to be willing to risk something for that. There's and we have shows that are making a fortune. It comes down to greed. It is about the investors. Here we go again. And that's where the nonprofits balance it out. And they're supposed to tell us this is not going to cost you because we are subsidized, or we are finding a cheaper way to do it, or maybe we're not giving you the Titanic sinking on stage, but we're giving you a wonderful show about the Titanic that we're going to save money on the set. Something. They have to do it. They have to move us with the writing, with the acting, there's a different purpose that nonprofit should be doing to bring us in and to make it worthwhile. And that is supposed to be the balance against commercial theater. Instead, we have theaters like Roundabout, which are trying to be commercial at the same time as they're nonprofit. And it's a questionable mission.
And there is something I appreciate about, I think one of the latest Broadway briefings talking about Lucky Seat, the digital lottery software. And then I was thinking about Show Score and Today Ticks, and all of those. They're trying to make it accessible, but they're sort of treating it like hotel rooms. It's like, please buy these because they won't sell otherwise.
Well, and take it a step further, I just dealt with that this week. A friend who is not a regular theater goer had received a Christmas gift of a gift certificate, and I'm going to name it because they should be embarrassed, Broadway.com. And that's great. There's enough money in that. It was $200, and there was a show that's closing soon that he wanted to see. And he's taking a date. All good. He went online to buy the ticket, and there was a $38 fee on top of the ticket price. So he went to the box office and said, I have a gift certificate. And they went, no, but it's from Broadway.com. You have to go to Broadway.com. So now he has to spend $70+ out of his pocket in order to use his gift certificate, because those are the cheapest tickets in the house that is available. And I don't think he's going to go. I think he's just going to let it die, which means they've just stolen $200 from somebody. It is wrong. fees don't need to charge that. Not if we're trying to encourage theater goers. It never used to happen. How do
Oh, I
you
love how when Hamilton tickets were a problem, and they were talking about, well, the reason we raised the price is because the secondary market was selling them for that price.
Mhm.
So now we're just going to sell them at that price, and so that way we can kind of whittle down the secondary market, but you're still selling them at that price, and ultimately you're probably just mad that you weren't getting that money.
Well, of course they make. So you don't want a ticket seller to make more money than the show when you've put the effort in. Of
Yeah.
course not. But we don't have the laws yet, although New York State has voted some new bills. We're waiting to see if they take effect that are supposed to limit what an outside ticket seller can charge. We'll see if that happens, and we'll see if it has any effect. It used to be telecharge being the worst. You can go see a Billy Joel concert and double your ticket price because telecharge wants to charge you the fees on top of the fees, and every little fee has a different purpose. For example, one seller says if you want to print your own tickets at home using your own ink and your own printer, there's an extra $3 fee we charge you to allow you to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of thinking is this? That's pure greed. And the show, and the investors who put all the money into that work, they're not getting a penny from that. And the actors and the stagehands and the musicians who are working every night, they're making their salary, but they don't get any extra money from that. So who are these people that are entitled to $3 because you want to print your own ticket? It just, we've gotten so out of control, and here's part of the new normal. How are we going to change that? Because, as they say, demand is there. If you want to use your $200 gift certificate, guess what? The only way you can do it is by paying our fees. That's extortion. You're not told up front. I mean, it's a gift, right? It's outrageous. So we have, and you and I and people who are in the theater have the responsibility to speak up. The hit shows make a lot of money. The shows that aren't hits don't. That will never change, right? So what are we worried about? I will also go a step further and say that I was looking at, since I was going to another city outside of New York, I said, while we're there, what's playing? And one of the shows was Hamilton. So I said, I'd love to see it again. So I looked it up. Their prices started at $600. Started. No, I'm not going to see your show for that. I saw it in New York for $40. Why would I spend $600 and up? And I understand the demand is there. It's still not right. And, anyway. And yes, there is price fixing. The theater owners, because they make a percentage of the ticket sales in the box office, that's how they get their rent. They will sometimes say, oh, no, you haven't raised your prices in quite a while, and the show next door to you is charging $10 more. We need you to raise your price. And that's not, the show doesn't need it. That's the theater owners, and that happens too. And I've been on the phone listening in when that's happened. So that's a first-hand experience, a long time ago. But I'm sure it still happens. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. There are actors who cannot sustain all the acrobatics in a musical 8 times a week. Why are we making them risk their health? And there are plenty of systems around the world that don't make someone perform 8 times a week, and they're surviving. Let's figure it out. Right? In Japan, they only do 4 performances a week, and they understudy the other 4. That's a way to do it. Different countries, different places. Can we afford to rehearse more than 4 or 5 weeks in order to let people go home and have dinner, rather than kill them working 14, 16-hour days, as many stagehands did, right? And doing dangerous work.
Yeah.
A lot of things to bring up. But I don't know anybody, and I may be wrong, but I don't know anybody in leadership who is talking about this seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I also, I mean, of course, it's like everything's temporary. Like the staff is temporary. Like everybody's a contractor,
Mm-hmm.
and that mindset, I think, rushes things. It's just like if you're a consultant. If you're a consultant working for a company, they assume that you're going to bang this out quickly because you don't have to go to all our staff meetings and do all this other extra stuff. Like, you're here to do a very specific task. So it's like, you can finish this in 2 weeks, right? We'll hire you as a consultant, so you can get back to your other clients. But the thing is, these contractors, these artists, don't have 6 and 7 other clients. There's no way for them to get in the headspace of really focusing on having that many artistic clients at a time. You can plan down the road. You can say, I'm going to be working here for the next 3 months. After that, I'm going to teach maybe for a little bit, and then I'm going to go back to, I've got a show in the spring or something like that. And then the idea of, like, the show was supposed to close, but now it's extended, and it's like, but it's great. And then everybody who loved you in it is like, why are you leaving? Like, what do you mean? I have a life. They didn't promise that it was going to be here beyond that point. So I didn't plan for that. I'm off to the next thing, and then you get to a certain point where people are realizing my life matters. That's why I'm not going to be here forever, even though this show is a hit.
Isn't that what remote working across all industries? Isn't that what we started to understand during the pandemic? Our lives matter. The balance.
Yes.
I told you before we started talking today. My barber brought that up today. He just said, we got through the pandemic, and I just started to realize my family matters to me as well as my work. And how do I balance that? But my boss doesn't understand that. And it comes back down to that. We have to have discussions. Not everything can be solved. Yes, performers may need to have a job working as a waiter in between shows. Yes, we understand that's part of it. Yes, we understand our industry has unique features and not everyone has a regular job. Yeah, we got all that. That can be discussed, and we already understand that, right? So we're not saying everything's got to change, but we can allow people to go home in good health, to actually have a family. I mean, just because an actress has a child shouldn't mean that she has to leave her work completely. We haven't figured this out yet. And of course, that's been a problem in lots of industry, not just theater, because we're contractors. And by the way, New York State doesn't allow for contractors in so many of the categories in theater now, because they said, you're getting away without paying Social Security. You're getting away without paying, for future, Medicare that these people are going to need, and without paying for pension. Guess what? I don't care if they're only with you for 8 weeks total. That's a job, and they deserve to be paid on salary. Of course, the actors will complain you're taking taxes out, but the truth is it's protecting them. And it's tricky. And when I was younger, almost everyone was a contractor. We paid no benefits. And then the unions came in and said, we need some benefits. And producers said, that's money out of our pocket. Yeah, guess what? You're not allowed to abuse people.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be paying more you're supposed to be paying more as a contractor because you don't have all of those other expenses.
Right.
But if you're a contractor,
But
I
where do
mean,
they
if
teach you
you're
that
in a
you're
contracted
supposed to
job
do
and
it?
you're still not getting paid more, yeah, it's like there's no justification. Only you don't have to treat me like a justified employee. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the only real difference here. If the pay is the same, oh yeah, but you're not beholden to us. I'm not beholden to you as an employee. You know, like
That's
I
right.
can just I can plan an exit, but here as a contractor, I don't have vacation time. I usually have a very specific schedule that if I can't make any of these, it's going to seriously compromise, my
That's right.
contribution to this. Like you can't take a day off. Like if you only have if there's only like I don't know, let's say there's only like 20 or 30 days that you're actually going to be in this thing. And you miss 2 of those days, that's going to be a big day. That's going to be a big deal. Like you don't
Right.
have that
Do you
luxury.
think that any designer is going to be able to say, I'm sick during tech week? Give
Mhm.
me a break. Right? Yeah, I mean, they are needed. They have
Can
exact
I do it
times.
virtually? Can I virtually hang lights?
Well,
No,
that's
no,
where,
no, not that way. The other way. My left. Okay. All right. Just stop. Just stop. Stop. Are there
well,
security? Are there security? What are those security hooks? Are there security hooks on that light? You know, I can't see. Hold the camera. Yes, I
yeah.
know that there are some things you just can't do remotely. I get it. I get it.
Well, it's not even that because you can have an assistant there if you literally are sick, but
Yeah.
but you are needed. You have a schedule. And not only do you have a schedule, you're working well over into overtime, and you're not getting paid extra for it because
Hmm.
that's just how the system works, and you
Yeah.
understand that. If you're in the final days of a show, guess what? Your life is that show, and certainly as a manager, um, no one's going to say, "Oh, gee, you were sick for 2 days this week. That's okay that you didn't have my paycheck ready." Ha ha
Yeah.
ha. So, what they say is a 6 day work week, which, by the way, I don't know why theater has to be a 6 day work week, but it always has been. The seventh day, I'm working. And there's a provision for working on the seventh day. You just better not ask for it because they
Yeah.
won't hire you again. So you're working, often the day that you call in payroll is the day off. So what? You think I'm going to take the day off when I have to call in payroll? They'd have my head for this. I'd be fired on the spot. So,
Hey,
yeah, what?
I
Hey,
was gonna say before we wrap up today, can we talk about our Grant McDermott?
yes. Okay, normally I'm always careful to not mention names, but we are so proud.
No, well, it's okay because episode 2 of The Business of Theater, a working title, featured our very own Grant McDermott, playwright, actor, playwright, teacher, who will have an off-Broadway production of his play Jasper at Signature Theater. Well, technically, the Pershing
Square.
Pershing Square
Square.
Center
Yeah.
Theater.
Because there is a signature theater in Washington D.C. as well as New York. This is the New
Yes.
York Signature Theater, starting at the end of August 2022.
Mhm.
It is a play. I've seen two staged readings of it a number of years ago, and it blew me away. It's what turned me on to him as a playwright, and I'm very proud to say that my company has commissioned him to write two plays, which are
Mhm.
brilliant. And we hope now that the pandemic is over that we will be able to find these shows producers also for his on his behalf because he's just
Yes.
brilliant.
And
And
those
so,
plays are great. I just got an updated copy of the second one, and he also sent me an additional one that is not part of the farm mix that I also enjoyed. Yeah, I mean, yes,
yeah, it's
the
I would
redhead
not.
Renaissance man is on a move.
I'm going to give it an advanced review. I normally never tell people what they should see because you
Mhm.
never know. But Jasper
But
is
we're very partial to this. We
but
don't
it's a
care.
magnificent play. I've seen it twice, and both times, the second time moved me even more than the first time, and I'm never bored. Uh, it's funny. It is devastating. It's one of those plays. This is my favorite thing to say about Jasper. And the second reading, the row in front of me, about 2/3 of the way through the play, not just started crying, they were sobbing so loud I almost couldn't hear the actors. They were so
Wow.
moved. And we've been laughing up to that point. It's just his language control, his characters. It's just, if you get a chance, this will not disappoint. Jasper, and I'm praying. Certainly people can wreck something, but I don't believe that Grant would allow that to happen. It's too good a play.
Yes,
It's just too good a play.
I,
And then
I did
hopefully,
say. I did say. Could you send me a copy of the script? So they're tearing it apart right now in
oh
rehearsal.
no,
Well,
no,
you know what I mean. They're working on it. They're
yeah.
working. They're working with it right now. But once it's ready, I want to read it.
Okay, well, I'm literally going to physically beat them up if they do anything to hurt this play. I fell in love with him and the play when I saw it.
Oh, you could just walk right over. I'm
No,
in
no, I can't just walk right over into his
I'm in
rehearsal.
JLS West having a chat.
By the way, let's talk about something else that I just saw. It was a reading. It's
Mhm.
supposed to be a reading. It's actually a workshop of a new comedy that I saw. I will not name it, not because it's bad, but
Because it's
there's
terrible. No, I'm
there's a
just
reason.
playing.
What they did to it, and I just want to encourage playwrights and directors out there. Um, they spent a lot of money. They hired two well-known theater actors. They're not film actors, but so they're not superstars. And it's not that small a cast. It's a comedy. They rehearsed them for 4 weeks with a director. They brought in scenery. They did not build the whole set, but they did bring in stuff, and they had stagehands. Um, and they performed it off book, memorized, and parts of it very funny. And they were trying to raise money to get this thing to go to Broadway. And my argument with this is if I were to tell them that parts of Act Two, when it started, need some work, yeah, a lot of it's really good, but it's not there yet. Now they don't have the money nor the impetus to fix it before they raise all the money because they spent so much trying to convince me that it's a finished product that there was no imagination left in my mind to believe that they will fix it afterward before it gets onto the stage. It's a problem. Patience, and we talked to Grant about this a lot. Grant will say,
Mhm.
well, isn't it ready? Grant, almost. That one scene is bothering us, all of us who have seen the reading of your play. We need one more rewrite, maybe. Let's see if you can do it. And Grant has gone through on the plays that we commission, has gone through 5 or 6 rewrites. And it's just about there. If one of them is finished and one of them is just about finished, then somebody can come in and say, now let's see how it works on a stage. We've done the readings for dirt cheap. You get really good actors, but they don't have to memorize. They don't have to worry about moving a chair. They just have to worry about making sense out of his play. And at that point, there's enough to know whether or not it's going to engage the audience, whether or not it's going to move you in the right way. And you do that enough times so that before you spend all the money, right? And the playwrights have to be willing to make changes. We almost commissioned a writer with a musical. Music was wonderful. He said, but here we have some thoughts on the script. And we were told, she said to us, "Oh, I'm not making any changes. This is the play I want." And we said, "Then we can't work with you." It's that simple. No one writes a perfect musical or play the first time out. It just doesn't happen. And if you're not open to changes, if you don't know how to do it, then congratulations on the great art you've done already, and now no one will see it.
Yes.
And that's a real problem for writers. The ego has, you gotta find a way to say, even if I don't like the comments, you don't have to follow everyone's comments. I mean, even in our group, somebody will say, "Oh, I really love scene 2," and somebody else said, "No, I didn't like scene 2 at all." You're going to take it with a grain of salt. You're going to figure out if you want to fix something or not. That's up to the writer. But first, you need to allow people that you trust to give you some input along the way. Anyway, so that's my encouragement. Please don't let your friends and family spend a lot of money on your play before you've read it and reread it and rewrote it and found another draft and found
friends don't let friends spend a lot of money on your on your art that isn't ready.
I wish you could have come in with that line earlier, so I didn't have to keep. I felt like I'm waiting. I'm waiting. He's not interrupting me. I got to keep talking.
Oh no, because the whole time I realized I was like, there was no real, like I did the working title, but I didn't do an introduction, and I was like, is there a way to weave it in? It was 30 minutes in, we hadn't weaved it in, and that's fine. It's because you listened to the jingle before we started talking. We just started talking because there's minutes of conversation that you don't hear when you record, before we hit record anyway.
That's right.
But the point is, these conversations never end. That's why they begin the way they do, and that's why they end the way they do. And that's why you have to subscribe to the podcast so that you can continue to engage and be a part of the conversation.
Oh, I hope you're getting something from it. We really do.
Yes. We hope so. We hope so. It's not us just rambling. I mean, seriously, we're working shit out here.
That's the subtitle? The Business of Theater. We're working shit out.
It'll be a rejected title.
No, okay. All right, I tried.
Because I feel like there'll be somewhere we wouldn't be able to post this. The Business of Theater, working shit out. Now in its 12th season. But yes. Yes, so that's The Business of Theater, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford.
I'm Mitch Weiss.
And we'll see you at the theater.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of The Business of Theater, a working title, with Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Share the podcast with a friend, colleague, or give us some social media love. This podcast is an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com/TBOT. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at em3ryotm.